welcome to the Comet Weekly, your source for the latest and up-to-date news at Villanova.
Every week we are going to bring to you interesting stories and everything going on at Villanova schools, specifically in the middle school and elementary school.
We don't want you to confuse us with Comet Connections, our high school-led media outlet.
We will still bring you some news from the high school, but the Comet News Network and the Comet Weekly will focus mainly on our middle school and elementary.
And speaking of the Comet News Network, this show marks the launch of our YouTube channel, Comet News Network. So when you finish watching, subscribe, like, and turn on the notifications so you know when we are going to drop a new video.
I can't think of a better way to start off our first show than with a man in charge.
Our reporter, Hadley Bartling, talked with our superintendent, Mr. Rice, not about what's going on, but a little about who he is.
Thanks, Jagger. I'm here today with our fearless leader, Superintendent Mr. Rice. Mr. Rice, thank you for taking time to visit with us today.
My pleasure, Hadley. Thanks for coming by.
You're welcome. Mr. Rice, we will ask you about some of the 2 changes to the school year in a week or 2, but this week we want everyone in Comet Country to get to know you a little bit. Is that okay?
Sure.
What made you choose to be a teacher and why?
Well, I always wanted to be an educator. My dad was an educator and a college professor, so I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And it's just something that, as far back as I can recall, that was something I wanted to do.
Okay. You started out as our ag teacher. What is your favorite memory as an ag teacher?
Oh my, those there are a lot of memories from the 17 years that I was agriculture education instructor, but I think my favorite memories was just the competition with my students, whether it was through livestock shows or livestock judging contests. There's just a lot of memories there from those competitive days in agriculture education.
How would you compare being a teacher to being a superintendent?
Well, there's a lot of similarities, I think. I mean, our teachers are really focused and committed to augmenting opportunities for our students, and they're really committed and go the distance. And as an administrator, we make sure that those classroom teachers have all the tools they need to provide our students with the greatest opportunities to be successful.
How many years have you been at Velma, and tell us a little about your journey to becoming a superintendent?
35 years. As you have noted, I started as an agriculture education instructor here in July of 1990, and as far as the journey goes, I wanted to be an agriculture education instructor, and when I graduated from Oklahoma State University, Velma Public Schools had an opening. They offered me a job, and here I am. I've been here for 35 years.
Finally, what is it about Velma that makes it a special place?
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that because it really is a special, neat place to raise a family and for children to go to school in. And I think there's a culmination of a lot of things there. It's the history and the tradition, but just as importantly, or maybe more importantly, is our community and the stakeholders in the community that do whatever is necessary to support the school and our students. So it really is a very special place.
Mr. Rice, thank you for visiting with us today, and we look forward to talking with you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm Hadley Bartling. Now back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Hadley. You can look forward to hearing from all of our administrators and other faculty members as the year goes on.
Like this interview with our elementary principal, Miss Corey, Lainey Williams spoke with her about a few things going on in the elementary.
Thanks, Carson. I'm here today with Velma Elma Elementary Principal, and more importantly, my mom, Mrs. Corey. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Every school year seems like a new adventure. What do you look forward to every school year?
In the elementary, my kiddos just grow so much over the summer, so it's always so fun just to see them come back, see how much they've grown, and then, of course, always see the new faces that we have joining us each year. So first of school is always some of my favorite days.
Yes. Okay, how special is it for you to be elementary principal at your alma mater?
If you cut me open, I bleed maroon and gray. So to be here at Velma, at my alma mater, class of 1995, just couldn't be more special. I absolutely wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Thank you. With the new school year, what are some of the changes in the elementary that kids and parents can look forward to?
Well, we're just business as usual in the elementary. Of course, our new calendar is a little bit challenging, but we're working on that. But as far as the ins and outs goes, we're just pretty much business as usual.
How have the students and faculty adjusted to the new school calendar?
It's definitely a change. We're used to having that Monday morning grind, and so now we're having these Tuesdays come in. They still kind of feel like Mondays, but I think we'll get the hang of it.
Okay, finally, you don't have to answer this, but who is your favorite child?
I plead the fifth.
Okay, okay. Thanks, Mom, and to most of you watching, Mrs. Coy, for visiting with us today, and have a good school year.
Thank you.
Now back to you in the studio.
One of the most hectic days of the year, Picture Day, was this past Wednesday. Doc H got everyone in and out as quickly as possible.
Don't worry if you miss Picture Day. There will be Makeup Day probably in the spring.
Next Thursday, our FFA will compete in a livestock judging competition in OKC. Good luck to Mr. Davies and the FFA program.
Before we take a look at what's going on in Comet Sports, here's a look at your weather.
The wins just keep on coming. The Velma Alma High School football team kicked off their 2024 season on the road last Friday at Caston. The Comets started off slow but fought hard in the second half, coming away with a 28-20 victory. The Comets are on the road again this evening at Wowoka.
The junior high football team has started off the year 1-1 after a defeat to the Walter Blue Devils this past Monday. The Comets' next game will be at home on Monday against Elmore City. Our cross-country runners have competed in 2 meets already this year, with their third tomorrow morning at Waurika.
Finally, softball. The Lady Comet softball teams have been on the diamond since the beginning of school. The junior high squad is currently undefeated, and the high school team has come a long way since last season. Both squads have games at Bray tomorrow morning at 9:30. Before we go back to the studio, here's a look at some upcoming games.
That's it for the first episode of the Comet Weekly. Join us again next Friday for episode 2.
We'll have an interview with our new, but not really new, chief of the Velma Alma Police Department and more.
Don't forget, there's no school on Monday, plus all the latest VA news and sports. Until next week, I'm Jagger Sander.
And I'm Carson Beck. Peace.